Okay, just before I get into the module content and everything, I just wanted to put my camera on and say hi, so you can put a face to the name and know that it is a human being on the other end of the computer. Just always find it helps if you can see who is talking on the other side. You guys know my name is Anwin. Most students call me Annie. I lecture Durban North Campus as well as online. So OT obviously for distance, and on campus a lecturer. So yeah, looking forward to having you guys this semester for journalism, which has always been my great love at Varsity College for as long as I've been here. So I'm excited to be with you guys this semester, and hopefully you guys are going to learn some new things and going to have some fun together. That's my aim at the end of the day, is learning through fun. All right, so let me turn my camera off. There we go. Just so that we don't eat everyone's data, seeing as it's so expensive in South Africa. All right, so like I said, we're studying journalism this semester, and before we get into looking at Learning Unit 1 and just having a chat about that, I just wanted to obviously speak to you guys about the module, the textbooks, the ICE tasks, the everything, so that you all have it recorded on this Collab and it's always accessible if there's something you're confused about. So this module is made up of your ICE tasks. It's made up of your part or your assignment, and it's made up of a portfolio. So what this means is you don't have any take-home exams or written exams or anything like that. It's about us being able to see your understanding of journalistic principles, not only theoretically, but put into practice. So how we do that is, you'll notice that the ICE tasks are all dealing with different aspects of the journalistic process. Your assignment, your part, that is theoretical in its approach, so it deals with the background to journalism and looking at the apartheid era and what have you. So that looks at the theory side of things. And then for your POE, all the questions except one short little question are all practical based. So what that means is that we get you to look at the theoretical aspect for the assignment, but then for your POE, it's about putting the principles into practice. So through the use of the textbooks, readings, additional readings from me, collabs and everything, what we want to see is that you're able to take these principles that you're learning, but put them to practice. Because it's all well and good being able to explain why an interview should be done face-to-face rather than via email, but you need to experience actually conducting an interview and writing a transcript and choosing journalistic pieces of writing to actually write about. So this is a very practical and hands-on module. It can be really interesting. I know for some people, the thought of journalism and media and all that kind of thing is like, but why? Like, I know you guys are wanting to be psychologists or work in the psych field, majority of you, but when you think of journalism, don't only think about it in terms of newspapers and magazines and social media. Also think about it how it is such an important tool that can be used for reading people, understanding the world in which you live, understanding where and how things work. It's it's a very, very good basis for looking at the world in a different perspective. So what that means is that, when you see a news article or you see a piece of social media, maybe you'll just stop to think and be a little bit critical of some things or take in other things which you might not have before. So I do see this module as being one of those that kind of fit in with your bigger learning tapestry to help you look at the world around you and with more of a critical eye. Okay, so for these assessments and for all this work, I would highly recommend not leaving the portfolio in particular to the last minute, because you have to conduct interviews, write transcripts and everything. And while it isn't a taxing portfolio in terms of academics and theoretical concepts and what have you. It's taxing in terms of time. So it's really important to make sure your time is set aside to make sure that you can actually physically get through the amount of work needed for the portfolio. Okay, so just to, let me skip to, can we skip to the good part? Stuck in my head. Good old TikTok messing with my brain late at night. Okay. Well, I mean, it's not late at 6. Okay, so you'll see that you have 2 prescribed textbooks. All right, journalism principles and practice, and then from craft to concept. So these two books work hand in hand. Your PM1 works with the basics and understanding the principles that are needed to not only analyze media, but also to the fundamentals of the writing. And then your craft to concept works with your more specialist writing. So works with your opinion writing and magazine writing and all that kind of thing. So while it seems crazy that there are 2 of them, they both have different aspects of them which have significance and help you in understanding the field of journalism. All right, if you have a look at, let me pull it up, just for anyone who hasn't looked through the documents that are all loaded into the OneDrive. I'm just pulling up the pacer quickly. Sorry, as with all South Africans, my internet is obviously slow, as it will be for the next 6 weeks. Okay, so if you have a look at the pacer here, you will see there's a whole lot of extra links and additional materials that I have put in there, so that if you feel maybe the textbook doesn't have quite enough information, or feel that you want to explore a concept in more detail, I have supplied some additional links there for you. Also, what is nice is for the part, you can also use these links as well. So everything is laid out here. You'll see there where I allocate time for our NSS for your assignment, which will be at the end of the month. And if you go through to the last page, you'll see that this semester there's quite a bit of time for catch-up, POE prep, and what have you. So you've got 2 weeks in which to prep for the portfolio due date on the 16th of November. So everything's quite well paced and spread out. There are some weeks where you have to do more than 1 learning unit in a week. I've tried to group that for like the less meaty learning units, just to help you make sure you are able to get through things in a logical manner. Okay. Then, just trying to think if there was anything else. No. Okay, so that is it for, oh no, sorry, there is the one thing. Just hold on. So I just want to go and share my screen with you guys. Just 2 seconds. Okay, here we go. So just to show everyone, if you go to more resources and go have a look, let me just turn my editing mode off so it will look how it will look for you guys. Like I said on the WhatsApp group, the lecture slides don't contain anything. I might even hide the folder because my stuff's all on the OneDrive. That's the link there for student material. So if you click here, the ICE activities are available in this folder, and you'll see I always give 6, but obviously for ICE it is, you have to choose 4 of them to do. So there are 6 options there, because maybe there's one that you don't really like, or maybe you just want to spend a bit more time going through certain concepts in each of the learning units. So as long as 4 of these are completed by the end of semester, then you are fine in terms of ICE. All right, so I've chosen activities which are there to support your learning and try and assist you with some of the more intricate or some of the interesting parts of the module. Then you'll see the recordings. This is the link to my YouTube channel where all the recordings are. And then if you click on student material, it'll take you to the OneDrive and you're able to find everything there. Okay. So before I go on to Learning Unit 1, questions from you guys. Is there anything that you are unsure of or want me to talk to, or anything that you I don't know, uneasy about or just need some clarity on before I start looking at learning Unit 1 with you guys. The one thing in my lectures, in my collabs, should I say, there is no such thing as a dumb question. And I know that sounds cheesy, but if you're needing to ask that question, it's meaning that you need clarity in your brain to actually understand a concept. So I don't mind any types of questions. You can type, you can put your mic on, but I thrive on questions. Please know that I know that there's some people overseas, some people in SA and all that. I try to keep to business hours as much as I can. If I see it's something more urgent, I'll reply. You know, as long as I'm not with my family and doing family stuff, I will reply to messages. Okay, but just try and be aware of time. Okay, Margaret is seeing. Evening. You've never done a POE before? Okay. Yes. So Margaret, in our NSS, we will do a how to approach and what to do with the POE. So POE is the portfolio of evidence. So essentially, instead of it being an exam that you get at midnight and submit it, which is normally theory based, the whole point of a portfolio is to show your understanding of the content as a whole. So for example, like I said, you guys are going to conduct interviews and you're going to put the questions and the answers in your portfolio. You have got to write certain journalistic pieces, do some research, all that kind of thing. So what it is that I will break down in our NSS each element that is needed. And also for even before I do that NSS, what I generally do is once we have covered something that I know is in the portfolio, I'll say to you guys, okay, now let's look and see how this relates to your POE. So, and then only at the NSS, I'll do it as a whole, but I will constantly break things down for you because I know everyone works at their own speed. And for some people leaving it to the end of October when it's due November, maybe for their deadlines and for what they're dealing with, that's too little time. So I totally get people needing that information sooner rather than later. All right. Any other questions? Or sample of a POE? Pavan, no, there isn't an example of a POE because so for instance with us, if there was an example of one, it would be the questions that you're doing so people could cheat. Basically, if you think of the portfolio as a bigger version of an assignment. So it's a set, like, don't worry about the content in it. I'm just going to show you the document, the brief, okay? So let me just share this with you. Okay, so if you have a look at the different elements going from here, okay, it tells you what your first task is. So it just gives you an explanation. So for 9 marks, you're going to be creating 2 spider diagrams, for example. Then the next step is planning and brainstorming. And oh, that one's got the mind map, sorry. Then the next one is conducting interviews. So it's just that a portfolio is broken down into lots of different questions, each getting you to do something. And the way we assess a portfolio is different in that we mark them a bit stricter. We know that you've had time with it, with your lecturers, your OTs, should I say, with your NSS and all that. So it's basically to show us your understanding of the material that and what you have worked through during the semester. Okay, so if you have this still has the, sorry, this is the version with, does this have the new dates? Am I going insane? No. Okay, sorry, ignore this one. We've had so many different what are they called, passes, that now I see that is the wrong one. Okay, let me just check that I have the, all right, I'll just make sure to confirm that I put the right one into the OneDrive, because I see now that that is the different one. Like I said, we're working with a whole bunch of different versions. Here we go. I can add the correct version. I think this is the correct version. Just want to have the due dates up again, just so it's all in one recording. And for those who can't obviously join tonight, it means that they have something to fall back on because they can't be here. If you hear cheeping in the background, I'm very sorry. I've got a mom with chicks sharing the room with me. So I'm a avid chicken lover. So I have about 30 chickens and ducks on my property. So here we go. Your part is due. We just have a look here. Your part is due on the 14th of September. Your portfolio of evidence is just over a month later. So that's the 16th of November. And then for anyone that has an issue and has resubmission, that's the 15th of December. But the ones we're aiming for are the 14th and the 16th. Okay, so 14th September, 16th November. And that's what those are the two things we're working towards. The same problem with our module on BC Learn. Oh, fabulous. Okay, but Pavan, so like I said to Margaret, just if you go to the WhatsApp group and in the description, all the important links are there. The OneDrive, the Collab, and the YouTube channel. This is why I do rely on guys, sorry, I couldn't even spell the word address yesterday in class and everyone just laughed at me. This is the reason why I use OneDrive personally, because we've had times where BC Learn's gone down for 2 days and people have needed to access documents. And to me, it seems redundant having it on BC Learn, because if anything goes wrong, you have a problem. But through the OneDrive, you have complete accessibility 24/7. Not too much trouble. Can you show the part? Oh, if you just go to the content. Oh, okay, yeah. You guys need it there for it to download. Yes, I will. In the OneDrive, the part and the POE are present as well. So every document that you guys need, the referencing guide is in there, the pass is in there, everything's in there. Okay, so there is the part. Okay. Only thing that I can suggest more than anything with JRN is just slowly go through it, okay? There are a lot of learning units. There's 10 of them compared to some other modules. So just slowly work through it, get through the content, and this is going to sound terrible coming from your OT, but it is not about the finer details, all right? And as strange as that sounds, it's that we are not going to be examining you on the 3 styles of interviews or 10 different genres that are found in journalism. We are not, quizzing you on the facts. We are assessing you on your understanding and your application of these principles to a real life scenario. So it is more about understanding the reasoning behind things and being able to apply to your own work. It's not about learning fact for fact. It's about an overall understanding of these principles. Okay. Link on the WhatsApp group, managed to download everything onto laptop. That's great, Margaret. So I'm glad that everyone is able to get connection. I mean, we still have people that aren't in their groups and everything. So we just take it day at a time, and as and when people join, I'll just update them. So even if you have to contact me, I do find WhatsApp easier than email. Often I won't open my email for hours at a time because I'm working on so much stuff, but WhatsApp comes through straight away. Okay. Any other questions? Nothing at all? Okay. Then let's move on to Learning Unit 1. Okay. So Learning Unit 1 is incredibly important in that we cannot understand where we are today within the journalistic landscape without looking to the past. And I know that a lot of people are tired about talking about the media during apartheid. They're tired of talking about apartheid in general. And, you know, it's that we have that information overload, that saturation that just makes us look at everything and just go, I can't deal with this. But the reality is, if you are wanting to understand our journalism industry today, you've got to know that because South Africa is so young at being, you know, oh, sorry, I jumped a page by mistake. Because we are so young, because of us only becoming free in 1994, it means that our journalism industry is also quite young. Because during the apartheid era, the majority of the press that was released was all there. Yes, exactly. If you can't remember the past, we will repeat it. Listen, we also know the past and are still repeating it, hence Ukraine and Russia. But at least if we have some understanding of what went on, you can understand why journalists fight so hard for freedom of information, that they feel the need to, you know, speak out when people are acting in an unethical manner. So, you know, when we call Zuma out, or we call the Guptas out, or, you know, someone has been caught with their hand in the cookie jar, it's not that we are wanting to call them out because it's gossip, it's juicy, it's all that kind of thing. It's that when we look at the past, journalists were not allowed to talk about anything really besides what the government deemed of interest to society. So the media today want to make sure that they are able to report on everything that is in public interest, so everything that is happening within society, because it's going to impact everyone in some way, shape, or form. So it's all about the context, all right? It's understanding that we're working in this realm of, you know, global media, technology, social media. We're living in a very different world to what was back in the day. But those basic foundations and tenements that we have, we still need to make sure that we understand what happened during the apartheid era. So when I say media and apartheid, what comes to mind for you guys? Like, what is the thing that sticks out to you? Like a word or a phrase? Okay, good. Fascist propaganda, no freedom of speech, 100%. All right, so when we think of this era that has occurred within our South African history, the media was used as a tool, a weapon for the ruling party, for the NP. They had the SABC acting as their propaganda machine. And what happened during this time was our media was not the same for every race. So please don't be offended, anyone. Obviously, I'm talking about apartheid era. I do need to speak about race and segregation and what have you. I'm not doing it in a way to harm or cause upset. I'm speaking about it from a journalistic perspective. Okay, we all know apartheid is evil and should never have happened, but we have to look at it critically to understand the landscape that we're dealing with. All right, so during that time, the media that was released to people of color was different to the media that was produced for white people. So white people had certain media, and certain homes and districts got certain broadcasts, where others got adaptations. So what this meant was that the white population had one specific view of what was happening within South Africa, and a lot of the information was censored. A lot of stories were dumbed down. There was a lot of like blinkered perspective happening, because a lot of white people were just getting the picture that government wanted to paint of themselves, and people didn't really question it. Where anyone of color that lived in one of those districts that was for people of color, their radio stations, TV broadcasts, their newspapers were all different, because they didn't want an educated color population. They didn't want any form of civil unrest, and they wanted people of color to like feel grateful for apartheid and feel grateful that, you know, for being othered, which we know is absolute lies and rubbish. But it means that the media during that time, didn't matter who was receiving any form of media, it was skewed. It was never true. Yeah, that's a good, yeah, docile indoctrinated labor force is so true. And then a lot of people say, but how did certain groups of white people, why didn't they stand up for apartheid and what have you? And, you know, I completely 100% agree. But at the same time, we've got to know that for some people, they did not know any better because they were not exposed to anything. They lived in their little white bubble, in their little suburb, with the media telling them everything's all fine, and they were staying far away from the township. And, you know, we almost had this false sense of security with the media in the past, where if it's printed in the media, it must be true. So, you know, we don't ever get media that is not true, which, again, we know is not the case. So what would happen was they would have an official person that was there during the apartheid era. In each publication, they'd have a government official who would read over all the news stories, black out or redact all the information that they deemed not in the public's interest. They would give the articles back to the journalists, make them rewrite them, and then that's what they released. It was also an era where there was major censorship from every side. So you couldn't report on any other political party besides the NP because they didn't want to garner any support. They didn't want these people's names being associated with politics. So you could not mention Mbeki or Mandela or Tambo or any of those people because the government didn't want the populations to know that there were people standing up to them. So you can see everything during the apartheid era was all about control, segregation, power, control, in the hopes to, you know, keep the whites in the white area and people of color in the people of color area, and never the two shall meet. Okay, unless they were there to, you know, clean your house or do menial tasks. And the media followed along with it on the most part. Why do you think so many media publications supported this particular viewpoint? Why do you think so many publications did just fall in line and they followed the ways of government? Like, do you think they believed in what they were writing? Do you think they thought it was okay? What do you guys think? I want to hear from your voices. Okay, they didn't have a choice. Okay, exactly. So either supported the regime, or because if you think about it, the media industry has never been a smooth sailing industry. There are always, you know, there aren't that many jobs for the amount of journalists and media people out there. So, you know, if you still have to put a roof over your head and you need to make sure bills are paid, you will follow with what government is telling you. It's also because during the apartheid era, the journalists could be fired or blacklisted. So if the government thought that this particular journalist was being a threat and they were pushing the boundaries of what is acceptable, they could blacklist them, and it meant they could not work at any media publication within South Africa. They could be exiled, like Oro Tambo, because they're publishing content that went against the apartheid regime. They could be imprisoned. So there are, I know one of my lecturers at varsity was in jail for 5 years because he had anti-apartheid books in his house, and he was a prominent journalist. So someone like ratted him out and he went to jail. Or you could be killed, not in like the crossfires, but kind of, you know, a targeted death. It is really, really sad and terrible. But the thing is, guys, we're talking about something that happened in the 40s and 50s. Do you think it's something that still happens today? Yep. Yeah, ESCOM. But even within media, so I don't know if you guys remember the first person to report on COVID in 2019. She wrote the news a news article saying that this virus existed and this is going to be a problem and everything. She disappeared. She was captured by the Chinese government and she was never heard of again. And that is not that long ago. So these kinds of things, being imprisoned, exiled, all that kind of thing, that still happens within the media today. So not to say I'm not trying to belittle what people experienced during the apartheid era. It's more me trying to highlight that these injustices do still exist on a global platform. For us as South Africans, thankfully, we do live in a more safe environment than some other countries. But in saying that, my husband worked for many different South African publications and has been, tear gassed and pepper sprayed and death threats and all sorts. He stopped in 2015, thankfully, because we had a child. But because he stopped working within media because he was going to have a child, and he realized after the umpteenth death threat, it wasn't worth it anymore. Mark Randolph, owner of Netflix, is it Freud? Their familial heritage, cultivate media and marketing manipulation. That's really interesting. I shall look into that. I've never read that before. And the one thing you will notice with me as a what's it, OT, that is the word. If I don't know something, I will be honest and say I don't know it. It is impossible, guys, to know every single media story and every single event happening in the world. There's something like 3.2 billion pieces of media distributed every hour across the globe. That's every photo shared, every TikTok video watched, every Instagram post, everything. So it is literally impossible to know everything that's going on in the world. And we as society do tend to gravitate towards certain media of those that we like more or less than others. Yeah, Netflix has lovely algorithms. Disney Plus too, Google. I know I've been talking about Varsity College with a particular group of students a lot over the last few days. And now they said all their adverts on their phones are all for Varsity College. Pavan, please. Love having someone to tell us fun and interesting and cool things. Because this is how we learn from each other and being able to, think about the different approaches and, between us all, we all should have something interesting and different to bring to the collab, which to me is so cool. So I love it. Okay. So if so what do you think changed towards the end of apartheid within the media? This part is what I'm focusing on because this is what is important for your part. So just so you know why I'm focusing on this in specific. No, why I'm focusing on this specifically. Why do you think things changed? Do you think the media was involved in the ending of apartheid? Okay. So even before they had more freedom, what was happening towards the end of apartheid was that a lot of publications, whether they be white-owned or black-run or so even those that were like, they were still anti-government but wouldn't speak out because they feared for their lives and what have you, they started to get a voice. They started to form this resistance media, standing up and going, this is not okay. This is not enough. Okay? This is what we need to do. Like, we need to speak out and we need to bring attention to what's going on, because if we don't, all that's going to happen is it's going to continue and perpetuate. So the media industry started speaking out, speaking up, and we started to have a lot of resistance media, so that by the time apartheid ended, media now suddenly were like, we are free, we can be objective, we do not have to show bias, we can tell people what's really happening in the world. I mean, if apartheid didn't end, we would never have known about Nkandla. We would never have known that the Guptas were stealing money from us left, right, and center. Yes, exactly. So with Nazi Germany, obviously there was more global awareness because we were all going through the World War. But media is incredibly powerful as a tool for speaking out, because it's what we rely on. Yeah, that is so true. We need that resistance, that critical thinking. But they only came about, and that freedom only came about for us at the end of apartheid. So everyone thinks the media, like, let's be honest, we all second guess the media. We're all critical of it. We don't see it as trustworthy and what have you, but we actually do. We still see it as the be all and end all of information distribution. We still will go to news sites, and we'll still go to specific pages on social media sites and that to check information is accurate and true. So for us as South Africans, because yes, Pavan, you've got some good insights here. I'm enjoying this. So the reason why South Africans are so finicky and particular about, people trying to silence us is because for the whole apartheid era, and even before, as long as media has existed in South Africa, up until 1990, let's go 1993 basically, media was censored. Media was always used as a tool and a weapon. So when apartheid ended and when the new political party came into power, we said never again. So media, South Africans, like, besides the few dodgy apples, because we know there are always those in any business, but the majority fight for that freedom. So if someone wants to censor, if they want to hide stuff, the media are the first ones in there to go, that's not okay. We will stand up for the South African people, and they will stand up for themselves because they do not want to be silenced again like the apartheid era. All right. Questions? Thoughts? Does that make sense? Anyone else have some interesting views they want to share? Any questions, guys? Nothing. Okay. Then that is us for tonight. Thank you for coming on and joining our first collab together. Oh wait, there were studies done, I think, in America. Sorry, I don't know why that didn't beep for me. Studies on what? Intermedia subliminal forces images. Oh yes, 100%. The subliminal messaging in media is scary. Yeah, it's when you actually go back and study it, it's like you never look at movies and series and anything ever again like the same way. It blows your mind. Thank you, Margaret. I'm glad you found it interesting. And just remember, guys, if you need anything, I'm here. Message me. I will help you as much as I possibly can. If it's stuff that is like technical based, VC learn, all that, Obviously, VC Assist is the way to go because I can't do anything about anything from my side, but the rest, I will help you when it comes to the modules as much as possible. All right. Thank you guys. Have an awesome evening, and I will chat to you soon. Oh yes, I get your perspective, Margaret. Totally do. All right, guys. Have a good evening. We'll chat soon. Bye.